When Frank Fritz passed away, fans mourned the loss of a legendary treasure hunter, but nothing prepared them for what was hidden behind the doors of his private estate. Imagine discovering something so surprising, so astonishing. It redefines everything you thought you knew about Frank. Could there have been a secret side to the beloved American Pickers star all along? Why did he keep such a massive secret under wraps? And most importantly, what exactly did Frank Fritz leave behind that left everyone in stunned disbelief? Stay tuned, this will amaze you. A man named Parker, living near Frank Fritz's home, said, "I always admired his passion for antiques and motorcycles, but nothing prepared me for the incredible secret hidden inside his estate." When the doors finally opened, revealing a vast collection, our entire neighborhood was stunned. Frank had quietly built something astonishing behind those walls, keeping it completely private. It made me realize just how deeply committed and dedicated he was to his craft, beyond anything we'd imagined. But to fully grasp the significance, we need to rewind to the very beginning. Frank, who was born in Davenport, Iowa, on October 11, 1963, showed a remarkable curiosity at an early age. Old coins, rusty beer cans, stamps, and vintage artifacts captured Frank's heart, while most kids found joy in contemporary toys and popular culture. He was captivated by the extraordinary stories these seemingly commonplace objects held, and his life would be shaped by his passion for learning about the past. When he was younger, Frank used to explore flea markets and old attics, marveling at the finds he made. Every item had a story to tell, and the abandoned and forgotten were beautiful to Frank's curious mind. He dreamed of the historical stories hidden behind each ding and faded inscription, and he spent endless hours picturing the lives of those who had once treasured these objects. His curiosity as a child extended beyond his love of collecting to include an early education in the value of history, where each artifact held a lesson just waiting to be discovered. Frank's hobby developed into something much more than a mere hobby as he got older. He began by gathering smaller objects and meticulously collecting them in a scrapbook of memories. But as he started to delve deeper into the worlds of rare antiques and vintage motorcycles, his goals grew. Frank's quests led him to forgotten rural locations where history seemed to linger in the dust, estate sales, and abandoned barns. He went from being a casual collector to a devoted historian of the material past, as each new finding enhanced his understanding of the stories contained in the artifacts. Prior to his quick ascent to fame in the collecting industry, Frank spent almost 25 years working as a fire inspector in Iowa. He visited abandoned buildings and old firehouses, which had once been hubs of volunteerism and community. A new interest in firehouse memorabilia was spurred by the building's quiet dignity and the artifacts they contained. Frank discovered antique helmets, alarms, and other items that were once central to emergency services in the hallways of these decaying firehouses. His daily interactions with these historical artifacts stoked his interest even more and encouraged him to investigate the more profound relationships between commonplace items and the lives they have impacted. Frank was able to bridge two worlds by combining a steady career with a strong personal passion. Being a fire inspector gave him special access to historical locations that many others would never see, and it was because of these experiences that he started to assemble an impressive and varied collection. Over time, he found himself transitioning from a hobby collector to a professional antiques reseller as the distinction between his work and personal interests became increasingly hazy. He gained respect in the antiques community for his in-depth knowledge of historical artifacts and his natural talent for finding hidden gems. As Frank's reputation grew, he opened his own antique store, appropriately called Frank's Finds. This store was more than just a business. It was a living museum, proudly showcasing vintage firehouse memorabilia, well-curated firefighter gear, and a variety of other historical artifacts. The store soon established itself as a landmark in Davenport, attracting both fans and interested bystanders. In addition to showcasing his remarkable collection, Frank's Finds laid the groundwork for his future in television, where his knowledge and kind, sincere demeanor would soon enthrall a national audience. Frank's life took a drastic turn when he met Mike Wolfe, an Iowan picker who shared his passion. Mike, a visionary with a knack for finding hidden gems, recognized a kindred spirit in Frank, someone who loved learning the little-known tales behind commonplace items. Together, They had an idea for a show that would convey the magic of America's lost artifacts and the excitement of the hunt. Their joint endeavor was realized in 2010 when American Pickers debuted on the History Channel. With 3 million viewers when it premiered, the show was an instant hit. Frank immediately became one of the most adored characters on the show thanks to his warm personality, contagious enthusiasm, and extensive knowledge of antiques. Frank and Mike Wolf's collaboration on American Pickers was dynamic and complemented each other over the years. Frank's keen understanding of history and sincere enthusiasm for collecting made every find come to life, while Mike's business savvy and strategic mind handled the logistics and planning of their treasure hunts. The two had an indisputable on-screen chemistry, and viewers were captivated by the genuineness and friendliness that characterized each of their interactions, in addition to the intriguing antiques they discovered. Together with Danielle Colby, the three of them came to represent adventure and friendship as they searched barns, garages, and junkyards for artifacts that connected the past and present. However, despite the glamour of television and the thrill of exploration, Frank had personal hardships. Beneath his charming smile, he fought silently against Crohn's disease, a debilitating illness that caused drastic swings in his weight and necessitated constant, careful care. Given the severity of his illness and the difficulties he faced on a daily basis, Frank lost about 65 pounds at one point. The difficulties he faced with his health were made worse by the demands of a demanding schedule and the rigors of fame. Frank had extensive back surgery in 2020, which involved the implantation of 2 spinal rods and 185 stitches. In addition to being physically demanding, this procedure served as a metaphor for the larger personal struggles he faced, such as his battles with substance abuse, which plagued him during trying times. Frank remained steadfast in his devotion to his profession and his passion for collecting in spite of his personal struggles. However, his once unbreakable partnership with Mike Wolf started to show cracks as his health problems worsened, and the demands of running a popular television program became intolerable. What began as a brief absence from American Pickers quickly turned into a permanent departure. Fans were shocked when Frank was abruptly removed from the show in March 2020, and many were left wondering what had caused such a drastic change. When Mike Wolf made the split public in July 2021, the situation had boiled over, and Frank formally left the show. Frank subsequently disclosed that Mike had not reached out or provided support, even during his most vulnerable times, when he was recuperating from surgery and juggling the demands of his health. Their once close friendship was strained by this perceived or actual betrayal, and the ensuing fallout generated a great deal of discussion and speculation among the devoted fan base. The public had never witnessed the complexity of American Pickers' backstage dynamics. As they dealt with the demanding filming schedules, personal problems, and the burden of sustaining a popular television show, Frank and Mike both experienced extreme stress. Their split was more the product of years of growing apart, made worse by the demands of their newfound celebrity, than it was of a single dramatic event. It was a silent tragedy when their partnership ended. They lost a bond that had seemed unbreakable. The news of their split was heartbreaking and confusing for the fans and collectors who had followed their exploits with unrestrained fervor, signaling the end of an era in the world of antique picking. Following his exit from television, Frank did not fade into obscurity. Rather, he embraced the digital era by creating digital storefronts and online platforms that connected him with antique collectors worldwide. Frank persisted in promoting the hobby of collecting via social media and other online forums, imparting his extensive knowledge and enthusiasm to a fresh generation of treasure seekers. For those who appreciated his work, his internet presence became a lifeline, and it reminded them that the passion for antiques and history went beyond the confines of conventional media. Frank's lifelong love of motorcycles was one of his most enduring passions, aside from collecting antiques. A 1964 Harley-Davidson sparked his interest in motorcycles and eventually led to the development of a sizable collection of rare and vintage vehicles during his lifetime. Frank painstakingly built up a vast personal collection over the years, which included everything from vintage Harley-Davidsons and Indian motorcycles to unconventional custom choppers. He wrote a book called How to Pick Vintage Motorcycles, a guide that explained the complexities of motorcycle collecting and the delight of discovering beauty in mechanical relics, because his dedication to this passion was so strong. His participation in vintage motorcycle-related events, exhibitions, and antique fairs strengthened his position as a community leader and advocate. Frank's contributions to the antiques community went far beyond his TV appearances and personal collections. He was an unwavering supporter of historical preservation and frequently organized gatherings and fairs that united enthusiasts, historians, and collectors from all backgrounds. Co-authoring the American Picker's Guide to Picking, a thorough resource that provided profound insights into the art and science of antique collecting, was one of his joint endeavors. Frank encouraged countless individuals to appreciate the stories that are woven into each artifact and to recognize the significance of keeping the material ties to our history intact through his writings and public appearances. But as the years passed, the effects of his numerous hardships became evident in ways that were impossible to overlook. At his home in Davenport, Iowa, Frank experienced a severe stroke in July 2022, which left him critically ill and necessitated a lengthy hospital stay. In addition to endangering his life, the stroke signaled the start of a downward spiral that would eventually impact every part of his life. Frank was moved to a rehabilitation center after being hospitalized for several months, where he endured a difficult recovery process. The fact that he was placed under legal guardianship to handle his financial and personal matters during this period demonstrated how serious his condition was. In addition to draining his finances, the stroke cast a long shadow over the last years of his life, with monthly medical bills amounting to an incredible $29,000. In the midst of his deteriorating health, a glimmer of reconciliation appeared despite the difficulties he encountered. After years of increasing resentment and estrangement, Frank asked Mike Wolfe to meet with him in May 2023. This gesture revealed a great deal about the enduring connection that had once characterized their relationship. A heartfelt apology and emotional openness characterized their reunion, with Mike expressing deep regret and admitting that Frank's absence had left an indelible hole. Although short-lived, this reconciliation was a moving reminder that a bond created by common interests could endure despite the demands of celebrity and personal conflict. A certain amount of solace and closure was provided by the encounter, which also demonstrated the resilience of a friendship that had withstood many hardships. Frank's health had really declined by September 2024. Frank died peacefully in the last moments of his life, surrounded by his closest friends and family, including his loving mother and Mike Wolfe. He kept thinking about the past, about memories that would not go away, even as he faced death. "The past is never really gone. It's always with us, hiding in the shadows," was his final statement, and it reverberated as a somber reminder of the enduring quality of history and the lasting impression he had made on the antique collecting community. For those who knew Frank well, his death was more than just a medical conclusion. It marked the end of a chapter in a life dedicated to passion, tenacity, and the preservation of history. Officially, his death was attributed to complications from his stroke and severe aortic stenosis. Following his passing, Frank's legendary status was further solidified by a startling discovery made within his estate. A large, painstakingly curated collection of motorcycles hidden deep in his private garage showed a side of Frank that few had truly seen. This treasure trove of rare vintage motorcycles, which included both fully restored classics and unfinished projects, was evidence of his lifelong passion for motorcycles and antique collecting. Every bike, with its own history and personality, served as a tangible reminder of the man who had dedicated his life to discovering historical beauty. Plans were announced to auction off Frank's vast motorcycle collection as a final act of kindness that would forever define his legacy. His estate made the decision to donate every dollar raised from the auction to charity rather than keeping the money for themselves, ensuring that his legacy would continue to benefit the community and inspire upcoming generations of collectors and enthusiasts alike. This selfless choice turned his private passion into a public act of kindness. In addition to being a well-known personality on American Pickers, Frank Fritz will be remembered for his life as a tribute to the craft of collecting, a celebration of history, and a demonstration of the enduring strength of passion. From an inquisitive youngster in Davenport to a well-respected fire inspector, a skilled antiques dealer, a popular TV personality, and ultimately a committed philanthropist, his path was filled with both successes and setbacks. Those who followed his adventures were forever changed by his willingness to embrace all facets of life, whether it was the excitement of a rare discovery or the suffering of personal adversity. Working on American Pickers with Mike Wolfe and Danielle Colby for more than 10 years allowed millions of people to enjoy the rich tapestry of American history in their living rooms. Together, their forays into barns, garages, and junkyards were more than just treasure hunts. They were expeditions into the heart of a nation shaped by its history. The trio's sincere friendship, their profound reverence for every artifact they came across, and the tales they discovered along the way struck a chord with viewers everywhere, creating a bond that went beyond television and into the world of cultural heritage. Every choice Frank made, every item he collected, and every gathering he organized to unite collectors demonstrated his unwavering commitment to respecting the past. Numerous people were motivated to look past the surface of commonplace objects and recognize the rich historical stories concealed within them by his role as a mentor and advisor in the antiques community. Whether battling Crohn's disease, suffering from a severe stroke, or navigating the turbulent waters of fame, his fortitude in the face of adversity served as a lasting reminder that passion and perseverance can overcome even the most daunting obstacles.